If Marcus Aurelius lived in 2025, he wouldn't be journaling on parchment. He'd be on Instagram, watching you spiral at 2 a.m. over a left-on scene and thinking, this is what we've become. You post quotes about peace, but can't last an hour without checking who viewed your story. You say you're healing, but you need an audience for every step. Marcus wouldn't post. He'd observe, he'd write. Not to impress, but to remember you were born to be unshaken. In this video, 5 rules Marcus would post if he lived today. Not for likes, not for clout, for clarity. Let's begin. If you're done with the fake, the noise, the performance, stay, subscribe. Now, this is stoicism you can live, not just quote. Rule 1. Unfollow drama. Follow your nature. Let's not pretend you didn't open Instagram to learn. You opened it to feel less alone and left feeling less enough. You scroll past faces you don't know, bodies you'll never become, lives curated to make yours feel half-finished. You watch their drama unfold, the breakups, the call-outs, the blurry text screenshots. You laugh, you react, you share, and now you carry it. You don't even realize how much you've absorbed. You feel heavy, but it's not your weight, it's theirs. That girl who posts healing journey, reels with sad piano music. That guy who posts gym thirst traps with heartbreak captions. That page with quotes that sound deep until you realize they just teach you how to blame everyone else. You follow chaos like it's content. Then wonder why your mind can't sit still. Marcus would have seen through it. Don't waste your mind on things outside your control, especially not what strangers think. But that's what your feed has become. A shrine to strangers' opinions, a temple of artificial highs, an engineered envy. You let their dopamine dictate your discipline. You wake up, grab your phone, and offer your peace to people who don't know you exist. And they take it. Every single day, you say it doesn't affect you, but it does. You scroll past an ex's new life, now you question yours. You see someone healing faster than you, now you feel broken again. You see a quote that hits too close and repost it like a cry for help disguised as aesthetics. You've convinced yourself it's just scrolling, but it's feeding. You're feeding the part of you that's addicted to chaos. That needs drama to feel alive. That prefers noise over silence, because silence would make you face yourself. You're not following them. You're running from you. Let that sink in and then stop. Unfollow anyone who makes you feel like healing is a performance. Mute anyone who turns vulnerability into vanity. Block anyone who weaponizes quotes to throw shade at people they never healed from. It's not about hate, it's about hygiene. Your mind is your house, and you've let too many strangers track dirt across the floor. Start cleaning. You don't owe anyone your attention, not your ex, not your old friend who became a self-help guru, not the influencer who makes anxiety look cute. If you wouldn't let them speak into your life in person, why let them speak into your subconscious? Because that's what this is. You're not just consuming content, you're shaping identity. You don't become what you want, you become what you watch. So if your feed is a loop of victimhood, outrage, and emotional exhibitionism, what exactly are you expecting to feel? Centered. You don't need a new morning routine, you need a new algorithm. Unfollow drama. And suddenly, you'll realize it was never about them. It was about what you were using them to avoid. The silence, the stillness, the self. It's uncomfortable at first. No more constant stimulation, no more fake connection, no more digital distractions wrapped in poetic captions, but in the absence of noise, clarity returns. You remember what peace feels like, not performative, not pretty, just quiet, and you start to notice things. How your breath evens out when your screen is off. How you sleep better when your last thought isn't someone else's life. How you feel less anxious. Not because life is easier, but because you're no longer outsourcing your emotions to strangers. That's not weakness, that's strength, that's sovereignty, because peace isn't something you find, it's something you protect. The tranquility that comes when you stop caring what they say, or think, or do. Only what you do. Marcus Aurelius. So unfollow the noise. Unfollow the bait. Unfollow the versions of you that need an audience to heal, and follow the one thing that never lied to you, your nature. It's been waiting. Rule 2. Wake up before the scroll. You used to wake up with sunlight. Now you wake up with blue light. You used to open your eyes and breathe. Now you open your phone and react. Before your body has even moved, your mind is already crowded. Notifications, missed calls, that reel from last night still playing in your head, and before you've taken your first conscious breath, you're already behind. You're scrolling, comparing, chasing, lost in lives that aren't yours, and you tell yourself it's harmless. Just catching up. Just 5 minutes, just checking in. But 5 minutes becomes 15, 15 becomes 45, and before you've even stood up, the world has already hijacked your mind. You're not tired because you didn't sleep enough. You're tired because you've been awake for 30 seconds and already absorbed 300 different energies that don't belong to you. You start your day with someone's vacation, someone's rant, someone's highlight reel, and suddenly your real life feels dull, insufficient, off track. You think it's the world making you anxious, but it's your habits. Marcus Aurelius didn't scroll, but he knew this feeling. At dawn, when you have trouble getting up, tell yourself, I was born to do this. Not born to scroll, not born to compare, not born to chase digital noise the second your eyes open, born to rise, to meet the day, not escape from it. You say you want to feel grounded, but you start your morning in other people's business and you wonder why you can't hear yourself think. You don't need more time, you need less distraction. 15 minutes, that's all. Wake up 15 minutes before the scroll. No phone, no feed, no noise. Just you. Drink water. Step into real light. Write something that isn't meant for anyone but you. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't even have to be useful. It just has to be real. Because you've spent so long living in borrowed energy, you've forgotten what your own soul sounds like. The scroll is always waiting, but you don't have to meet it first. You don't have to start your day by losing control of it. You don't have to trade your clarity for content. And no, you don't need a 5 a.m. club. You just need 5 quiet minutes that belong to you before the texts, before the noise, before the world reminds you of what you lack. Because that's what the feed does. It doesn't inform you. It infects you. You wake up clear, but the scroll adds fog. You wake up calm, but the scroll adds urgency. You wake up whole, but the scroll shows you where you're not enough yet. It's not just about discipline, it's about defense. Your morning is sacred, and you've let it become a battlefield. You think you need motivation, but you don't. You need protection from the algorithm, from the comparisons, from the performance of perfection. What if your first thought wasn't, what did I miss, but what do I want? What if your first move wasn't checking messages, but checking in with your own body? What if you didn't offer your mind to strangers the second you woke up? What if the first light you saw wasn't from a screen? You keep searching for peace, But peace isn't out there. Peace is before the scroll, before the noise, before the false urgency. You'll find it in silence, in sunlight, in solitude. Not because it's trendy, but because your nervous system was never built for 7 billion voices before coffee. The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Marcus Aurelius, so guard the first thought. Don't hand your soul to a screen before you've returned to it yourself. You don't need a digital detox. You need a digital boundary. So tomorrow, before you scroll, sit, breathe, exist without performance. You don't owe the world your attention, especially not at sunrise. Wake up before the scroll and watch your entire life shift. Rule 3, don't post for validation. Practice in silence. You used to do things for the sake of doing them. Now you do them for the story. You can't even go to the gym without thinking about your angle. You can't read a book without underlining something to post. You can't cry without turning it into a caption. You don't heal anymore. You curate the appearance of healing. You don't grow. You present growth. And every part of your life becomes a performance for people who are barely watching. You say it's for accountability. You say it's to inspire, but deep down you know what it is. You want to be seen. You want applause before the job is done. You want someone to say, "You're doing great," because you don't believe it unless it comes from outside. Marcus would have seen through it instantly. Waste no more time talking about what a good man is. Be one. But you can't stop talking about it. You can't stop hinting. You can't stop seeking credit for effort you haven't even finished. You post a workout clip and go home early. You share a quote about discipline and then scroll for hours. You announce your boundaries while still refreshing to see if they've texted back. You don't need feedback. You need focus. You keep trying to prove that you're okay, which tells everyone you're not. Because people who are really healing don't announce it. They disappear for a while, they get quiet, they put their head down and build something no one understands until it's done. That's what practice is. Unseen, unglamorous, unvalidated, but real. You don't need content, you need consistency. You don't need a round of applause. You need to earn your own respect. That happens in silence, when no one's clapping, when no one sees the reps, when the motivation dies and all you're left with is repetition and solitude. You want to be free. Stop proving you're free. You want to be confident? Stop checking if they noticed. You want to be powerful? Let your life speak louder than your posts. Because here's the truth. If you need to share it to believe it, you're not there yet. The most powerful things in your life will never need a caption. Growth doesn't announce itself. Neither does peace. Neither does discipline. Neither does mastery. They move in silence. They reveal themselves over time. But the need to constantly prove, that's insecurity in disguise. You don't need to be witnessed. You need to be about it. And being about it means you do the work whether or not anyone's watching. You show up when the likes don't. You build the thing without documenting every brick, because what you build in silence becomes undeniable in public. You won't have to say anything. Your results will speak. Your presence will change. Your energy will shift. You won't need to prove a thing because you'll become the thing. But that only happens when you stop chasing validation. The work is enough. The process is enough. You are enough. When you stop outsourcing your worth to strangers who are too busy refreshing their own feeds to care about yours. Be tolerant with others, but strict with yourself. Marcus Aurelius, so stop explaining. Stop rehearsing the same story in new aesthetics. Stop turning pain into performance and calling it vulnerability. This isn't for them. It never was. It's for you. The real you, the one who doesn't need credit, just clarity, so practice in silence. Build what no one sees. Let them wonder where you went. Let them ask what happened. Let your absence become louder than your performance ever was, because the real flex isn't sharing. It's living it without needing anyone to notice. Rule 4. Do hard things without hashtags. You say you're rebuilding, but why does it always need to be seen? You say you're doing the work, but why does the world need to know? You post the gym mirror, you post the clean meal, you post the mental health break and the comeback reel 2 days later. But what would it look like if you didn't post it? Would you still do it, or do you only feel strong when there's a witness? That's the test. Marcus Aurelius never uploaded a transformation. He never wrote meditations to go viral. He wrote to survive his own mind, alone, with no filter, no hashtag, no praise. And if he lived now, he'd say this: you were born to do the work of a human being, not the performance, not the brand, the work, the invisible, unshareable, unglamorous part of it. The cold morning workouts no one claps for, the journal pages no one reads, the ugly tears that don't fit into a 15-second soundtrack. Real, you want strength, but you keep selling it for digital applause. And it's not judgment, it's pattern. Every time you do something hard, you seek recognition. You want someone to say, "I see you," because deep down, you still don't believe it's enough unless someone else agrees. You're outsourcing your proof of progress. You're leasing your discipline through social feedback. But here's the hard truth. If the world had no likes, would you still show up? Would you still heal without announcing it? Would you still train without recording it? Would you still grow without tracking it on some aesthetic story template? If not, you're not building, you're performing, because real growth doesn't crave attention. It craves depth, and depth happens in places that can't be captured on camera. You want to do hard things? Then do them without needing a trophy for every rep. Do them when no one's cheering. Do them when no one's checking in. Do them when it's boring, when it's lonely, when it's real. Not because it's pretty, but because it's yours. That's where identity is forged, not in the caption, in the silence. You keep thinking that if people see you doing hard things, it'll make it easier. But validation doesn't build character. Repetition does. You want discipline? Do it privately. Let your calendar show it, not your feed. Let your actions accumulate, not your affirmations. Because when it's real, you don't need to market it. It lives in your energy, in your habits, in the way you carry yourself when no one's looking. You think silence means no one cares, but silence is where self-respect is born. Every time you do something hard without posting it, you reclaim a piece of yourself, a piece that doesn't need to be seen to feel real, a piece that answers only to you. You want to prove them wrong. Do it in the dark. You want to become unshakable. Do the work when you least feel like it, and tell no one, because the second you need a camera to validate the moment, you lose it. Growth isn't content. Discipline isn't a brand. Healing isn't a trend. It's sweat, it's solitude, it's silence. It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, who is poor. Seneca, so stop craving applause, crave strength, crave mastery, crave the kind of power that doesn't need to be displayed to exist. Do the hard thing, don't tell anyone, just keep going. Let them wonder why you look different, why you walk quieter, why your energy feels heavier, like someone who built themselves in places no one else could enter. No hashtag for that. No caption could explain it, because the real flex is not needing one. Rule 5. Silence is the new status. There was a time when silence meant peace. Now silence makes people panic. You leave a message on scene and they spiral. You take a few days offline and people assume something's wrong. You don't post, don't share, don't perform, and suddenly you've disappeared. But maybe that's the point. You're not missing, you're reclaiming, because not everything requires a response. Not everything needs to be witnessed. Not every shift needs to be spoken. And yet, you've been trained to narrate everything. The comeback, the heartbreak, the healing, the boundaries, the glow-up. You've been told that if it's not shared, it doesn't count. That silence is absence. That being quiet means being irrelevant. It's not true. Silence isn't absence. Silence is ownership. It means you don't need to explain yourself anymore. You don't need to defend your peace. You don't need to convince anyone that you're evolving. You just are. Marcus Aurelius never bragged about his discipline. He never posted about cutting people off. He simply said, retreat inside yourself. There is no haven more peaceful. He knew there's a kind of strength that doesn't announce itself, a kind of clarity that doesn't come with noise, a kind of power that doesn't beg to be seen because it doesn't care who's watching. You want that? Then let go of the need to respond, not just to texts, but to triggers, to people who bait you, to situations that demand your energy but don't deserve your presence. Let go of the urge to explain your silence. You don't owe anyone closure. You don't owe them access. You don't owe them versions of you they've already wasted. They text. You don't reply, not because you're bitter, because you're finished. They post something to get your attention. You don't react, not because you didn't see it, because you've moved past it. That's silence, not as withdrawal, but as statement. Your silence says, I'm not available for nonsense. I'm not performing my piece. I'm not wasting words on what no longer holds weight. You used to overshare because you were afraid of being misunderstood. Now you're okay with it. Because truth doesn't need defense, and peace doesn't need proof. The moment you realize silence isn't weakness, you become untouchable. You watch the chaos. You don't enter it. You hear the noise, you don't respond to it. You feel the old urge to explain, but you breathe instead. And that breath, that's you choosing power. You used to answer everything, now you answer only to yourself. That's what makes people uncomfortable, because silence forces them to hear themselves, and most people aren't ready for that. They'll call you distant, cold, arrogant, but it's not that. You're just done explaining your evolution to people who stopped growing. Let them think what they want. Let them talk. Let them spin their stories. You're not here to defend your peace. You're here to live it. And silence, that's the loudest peace there is. If you are disturbed by external events, it is not the events that trouble you, but your own judgment about them. And this, you have the power to eliminate. Marcus Aurelius. Eliminate the noise. Withdraw your energy from what doesn't grow you. Cut the feed, mute the chat, go ghost if you have to. Not to disappear, but to reappear, quieter, sharper, clearer. Silence is not emptiness. It's space, it's stillness, it's strength. No status update can match that. Marcus didn't need Wi-Fi to connect to himself, and neither do you. He didn't chase trends, he chased truth. And in 2025, when everything's louder, faster, faker, that matters more than ever. You don't need more noise. You need less. You don't need to go viral. You need to go inward, because the strongest thing in any room is the one that doesn't flinch, doesn't prove, doesn't perform, just stands. unshaken, unmoved.